Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tim's News Explosion on this Monday, the 24th of June, 2024. We are live on the Wilmsfront YouTube channel, the Wilmsfront Odyssey channel, and the Wilmsfront Rumble channel. Hello to everyone in the live chats. Linda Hunter, thank you for staying up to tune in. It is 9 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria. Or should I say Vicberia, because the cold winter we are experiencing reminds me of cold places just like Siberia. And obviously Siberia in Russia, Vicberia, it's sort of similar in that, well, that's the home of the gulags and Victoria's political dissidents. A lot of them get sent to the gulags at the various prisons and remand centers. Now, just before our winter began at the end of May, the Bureau of Meteorology, the BOM, forecast an unusually warm winter. And now they have said that it is the coldest winter in decades. Parts of Australia are waking up to -0 degrees, and it's lucky to get over 10 degrees. And you'll also remember the BOM, the Bureau of Meteorology. They forecast a dry and hot summer, which was completely wrong, but they still claim they can tell us what the temperature will be in 10, 20, 30 years. We should still trust them on that, even though they can't get the forecast out right 6 months out. And now it's a big events calendar right across Australia. So Tucker Carlson has already begun the Australian Freedom Conference tour as the keynote speaker, which of course is hosted and funded by Clive Palmer, the founder of the United Australia Party, which is actually deregistered federally now. But Ralph Barbet is still doing a good job standing up for freedom in the Australian Senate. And also supporting Tucker Carlson here is Dinesh D'Souza, the filmmaker whose most recent film, 2000 Mules, talked about the 2020 election irregularities, shall we say. Now, because his films have been so influential, he was actually jailed for campaign finance fraud, believe it or not. Now, Tucker's has spoken so far in Brisbane, Cairns, and Adelaide. Now, I did wonder whether the local various Antifa groups campaign against racism and fascism, or what's another one? We're going to get to the other terrorist organization in a moment, the Whistleblowers Activist Community Alliance. We'll wonder if they'll put on a protest against Tucker in Melbourne, even though he is pro-peace in Israel, Palestine, and obviously Tucker is also pro-peace in Russia and Ukraine. Though at the Brisbane show, Drew Pavlou, who initially gained notoriety as an anti-CC by the University of Queensland for taking part in anti-CCP activism on campus, because University of Queensland gets money from one of those Confucius institutes. But now he has morphed Drew Pavlou. He's got, like, he said he was a human rights activist, and now he's gone down the spreading liberal democracy around the world pipeline to being a neoconservative war hawk. And so he actually paid money to go and see Tucker Carlson in Brisbane, just so he could disrupt it and unfurl a Ukraine flag. This was the footage filmed by Ben Shand, the Dusty Bogan Christian lobby, for his censored TV program.
I've been standing backstage, just backstage. I discovered I've been drinking Foster's Lager all these years, and not a single person in Australia's ever heard of it. I think they've just taken
And now Tucker Carlson quipped back that those who unfurl Ukrainian flags or have Ukrainian flags in their bios, they are leading to the death of more Ukrainians in this forever war. Vladimir Putin has offered a peace terms, but because the West and the G7, they've convinced Zelensky as the modern day Churchill, support him for however long it goes. It's going to be forever war with Russians and Ukrainians continuing to die. Drew Pavlou, he said his message to Tucker was stop licking Putin's butt. He sure told him. And he also got a $948 fine for disrupting an event. Luckily, it wasn't at a football stadium, because then he would have got a really large $1,000 fine. He claims that he was able to crowdfund to pay the fine. But in terms of buying the ticket, I mean, you're still paying to fill out the arenas, the conference centers. The Melbourne Freedom Conference is next Monday, July the 1st at 6:30 p.m. I know that Margot will be there, so will be Richard Wollstonecroft, host of the Report from Tiger Mountain, and also one of the panelists on Sam Newman's You Cannot Be Serious podcast and founder of the Melbourne Underground Film Festival. Also, another notable figure who will be there as well will be Will Joseph, Australia's most principled libertarian. Let me know in the comments anyone else who's got tickets to see Tucker in Melbourne. Now, obviously, next Monday, because I'll be at Tucker Carlson in Melbourne, there will not be a Tim's News Explosion next Monday. It'll be the next night on July the 2nd at 9 p.m. So we shall see, as I said, if the Melbourne, one of the various Melbourne Antifa groups decide to launch a protest against Tucker. I know that the mainstream media have done hit pieces on Tucker's tour. The worst was the project, the usual thing that he's not a journalist, he's a demagogue, rabble rouser, you name it. It was absolutely appalling, and he's not selling out the tour. But if you saw photos of the Brisbane show, looked pretty full to me. And Clive Palmer informed us about a month ago that Tucker's visa had been approved, so it was the real deal, unlike the Donald Trump Jr. Tour last year that never happened. But we've also had Jerry Seinfeld tour Australia, and the pro-Palestinian activists have bought tickets to his show just to disrupt it, because they think that Jerry Seinfeld can end the war in Gaza. And so he's become he's probably had them pre-prepared, the quips back at the pro-Palestinian activists paying money to him to disrupt his show.
Here's the other thing I think you need to go back and tell who's ever running your organization. We just gave more money to a Jew. That cannot be a good plan for you. That's not what you want. That's the whole problem. You got to come up with a better plan.
And they're not managing to ruin the attendees' nights anymore by disrupting the show, because Jerry Seinfeld has already got his material ready to go to quip back at them. But this is nothing new from the brain dead moronic left buying tickets, contributing to the profit for the tours of people they don't like. There was several Antifa who bought tickets to Lauren Southern and Stefan Molyneux's tour in 2018. I think Lauren Southern quip any more ticket sales from Antifa. The most ridiculous one was a woman who tried to rush the stage, and as she was being dragged away, said, I love refugees, I love Muslims. There was one who sounded a siren, and Neil Erickson threw a beer on her, and he got kicked out for his dishing out of instant justice there. And then there was also a woman with a alarm who made an alarm sound at Nigel Farage's first tour, also in 2018. And Farage, being the quick wit that he is, he said that's more money that Mr. Soros has wasted. Jerry Seinfeld's tickets, they were more expensive than Tucker Carlson's The Australian Freedom Conference tour. So, and again, they might claim that they crowdfunded it. There's still these suckers who are giving profit to people that they hate to try and disrupt the show. It's still it's still a really ridiculous brain dead strategy, though. That's how you know that leftism is a mental disorder. Now, the pro-Palestinians, there are they have become more radicalized. They have been targeting Labor politicians, electorate officers through blockades and vandalisms. Because, well, they don't bother with Liberal politicians because they know that they're a lost cause. But they believe that by intimidating Labor MPs that they can, I don't know, stop the war in Gaza. That elbow can get on to Netanyahu, who has disbanded his own war cabinet, and say, "Oi, knock this off now." What's that chant? You can't hide. You're promoting genocide. Now, the Antifa terrorist group, the Whistleblowers Activist Community Alliance, they are also the organization that has posted all of the cutting down, desecration of our historical colonial statues. They should be declared a terrorist organization, and they're the ones that often post from inside the various pro-Palestine protests and all of the counter protests against nationalists and turf rallies, and they really ratcheted up their terrorism. I'm not sure if this is coordinated by, if they're an actual fully fledged organization or just an account, but they smashed the windows and firebombed Josh Burns, the Labor Jewish member for McNamara, and put devil horns on his head. This was the propaganda video that they posted glorifying their terrorism.
Last we forget minute masquerade the date. I'm on graves, flag raising, hand to chest, political topos, oath. I've been assessed, convicted, would have failed the national migration test. Lest we forget all those dispossessed. They never confessed, obviously theft. Who once whispers crabs, secrets best kept. Systematic nephew to decimated race. A country who's still in love with black face. Right here, every stand was once another place. Every suburb, shire, city, state. From Dandy to Sydney to Taylor's Lakes. The legacies, who signs, box, and reserve. Preserving in the memory of criminals who serve. Exodus, original people from the land. Killing and screaming, we end this whole plan. We forget international law or the need to make.
And you see with the text that they put in there, this is how extreme and radical that they have become. The old, if you're not condemning, you're endorsing, you're complicit. It's the same as the old neocons from the War on Terror. You're either with us or against us. You're either with us or you're on the side of the genociders. Now, this was attack was condemned by all political leaders, including the Greens' Adam Bant, as anti-Semitic. The Greens, they want to win Josh Burns's seat of McNamara, which is in inner Melbourne. They also want to win the seat of Wills, which is held by Labor's Peter Khalil, who's an Egyptian Coptic Christian, married to the Lowy Institute's terrorism, extremism expert Lydia Khalil, who's been on Q&A and testified before various extremism inquiries. So it's clear that the Greens know that, yes, this type of terrorism and violence isn't going to help us win those seats. Now, Josh Burns, he also, of course, I don't respect him because he is a lockdown. He was a lockdown mandate pusher, Dan Andrews simp. He's also pushing for a federal Human Rights Act, which, of course, wouldn't pretend actual human rights freedoms. It would be about the right not to get offended. He, of course, supports all the anti-free speech laws, but to give him credit where it's due, pardon the pun, I have said that if attacking my office would end the war in Gaza, then I'd attack my own office. So yes, and this is not the first time that Antifa have firebombed one a person that they hate politically. Remember, they firebombed Tim Lutz's car outside his home in the west of Melbourne. And his wife was pregnant, and they actually had to move homes because their address was doxed. And they have all got away with this firebombing, this cutting down of our statues, and this is why it's going to keep happening. Victoria Police, they can't seem to catch any of them, yet they managed to find charges for a lot of the National Socialist activists. They're trying to get Thomas Sewell on grossly offensive behavior for marching through Ballarat with the National Socialist Network on the Eureka anniversary last year. They've also obviously created that new law against the Nazi salute and displaying the swastika. So Australian Meditations, Stefanos Oraculus, he was found guilty of, I'm not sure if he was actually found guilty of vandalism, or it was drawing a swastika in public. So he pleaded guilty to vandalizing a public library in the city of Whittlesea with a swastika, and also for the video that supposedly threatened Lydia Thorpe by the warriors of the convict resistance, because it had the sign in the background, Lydia Thorpe, Abo Hor. Now, after he pled guilty, Thomas Sewell revealed on Telegram that he accused Stephanos Oraculus Australian Meditations of embezzling $51,000 of donations that he supposedly raised for the organization, and spent some on entertainment expenses. So that is, well, that's one case that has concluded. They're also going after Jacob Hirschnet for his almost Nazi salute outside after he and Thomas Sewell were sentenced for violent disorder, when, in Thomas's words, gay Jewish communists stalked them at the Cathedral Ranges back in May 2021. So you remember Jacob Hirschnet, he lifted his arm about 3/4, saying "Hail Hitler," and then I think he remembered that as he said, "Oh, nearly did it. It's illegal now." And I know that Jamel Roberts, he's also been charged with, was it using a carriage service to menace or harass, and I don't know, offensive behavior. They use whatever for the spray that he gave grandmothers for refugees after the stabbing of grandmother Vilene White. Now, I couldn't endorse the language that Jim used, those grandmothers for refugees, but they certainly deserve some sort of spray, those grandmothers for refugees. What sort of country are they leaving their daughters and their grandchildren? So Dawn Browning says, my youngest got his mate's stolen bike back after 2 years without the requested police assistance, just saying he sees no need for police these days. It's DIY. Sadly, yes, we're becoming like Britain now and London, where people don't even bother to report thefts these days. D-Mel says Jamel and the comedian. Jamel and Roberts, he's just known as a Jim or a Jimbo. He's also got a swastika tattoo on his chest, like in the American History X. And remember that a Irish pub bartender spat in his beer because he's got on his shoulder, I can't even remember it's the black sun on his arm there. But he got fired, that bartender. There is some still justice in the world for absolutely disgusting spitting in someone's beer. Now, you would have seen that Thomas Sewell, Blair Cottrell, and Joel Davis attended the other night the National Workers Alliance event over at the Polish Club in Rowville. I couldn't get to this event, unfortunately. I would have loved to have gone. I went previously to the Polish Club in Rowville with actually Margot at the beginning of 2022, when it was the Australian Peacemakers Christians Unite event, where also Nick Patterson and Damien Richardson spoke. Now, this event was billed as Stop Immigration, End the Sexualization of Children. Now, the National Workers Alliance, that is headed by a gentleman by the name of Matt Tree, who still organizes weekly the pro-freedom rallies in the city. So he's a real, what'd you say, trooper. The fact that he still gets out every week, because the price of liberty is a eternal vigilance. So I heard from him, and as I mentioned, Damien Richardson and Nick Patterson. Now, of course, the actor Damien Richardson, he was cancelled as an actor for not taking the vaccine, and also because, well, they are trying to marginalize white male actors with all of the diversity casting. The worst example in Australia is that Heartbreak High on Netflix, that remake where every character is either gay, disabled, or non-white. It's absolutely vile. I know that Andy Nolch watched it and did a review. I couldn't bear myself to watch it. It just looks awful. So yes, that's why somebody like Damien Richardson, despite his CV being in city homicide and Neighbours, has been marginalised. And now Nick Patterson, he said he was there so his children wouldn't become gay communists. And Craig Cole, so he was also a freedom campaigner. Like Nick, remember Nick Patterson beat the Victoria Police assault charges, which was fantastic. Craig Cole, he has founded a new group called Leave the Kids Alone. There was also over in New Zealand, national rallies, Hands Off Our Kids, organised by Brian Tamaki of Destiny's Church, because their government is very slow in ending sex relationship education. So this is the flyer that the National Workers' Party are distributing. I've got it here. I've got too many ones here. And I think nobody can disagree with their aims. Preserve Western culture and identity, immediate moratorium on immigration, withdraw from the UN, stop the sexualization of children, no digital ID, no central bank digital currency, bring back manufacturing and government indoctrination of children, protect body autonomy and informed consent, immediate moratorium on foreign aid, workers' rights. There is honour in labour, protect family rights and tradition, restrict child access to gambling and pornography, reform the judiciary, reduce the power of bureaucrats, constitutional change towards direct democracy, and foreign ownership of Australian land and assets. Now, another one of these Antifa-aligned groups, the White Rose Society, well, their specialty is doxing nationalists. They decided to incite their followers to harass the Polish club because Tom, Jacob, and Blair attended. It said last night the Polish club in Rowville hosted a meeting of far-right National Workers Alliance, and attenders were members of the violent street gang NSN. No, that is the Whistleblowers Activist Community Alliance, which is a violent street gang. If you have concerns about the Polish club providing a safe space for Nazis, contact them here. They're probably thought to themselves, haven't the Polish learned anything from history, allowing Nazis into their territory? And I remember it reminds me of a sketch that the Chaser did many years back. What have we learned from history? And they decided to see if Germans would be allowed into the Polish club, and so they just send some Oktoberfest Germans, and they send in some brown shirts, and then Andrew Hansen dresses up as Hitler. And as long as he signs the book, he like the signing book is allowed in, and then he does like the salute as he goes in, because this was 2006, before like when things were allowed to be funny, and you could make a comedic Nazi salute without the threat of imprisonment. And the Polish lady, like, sort of, she efficiently reacts because she wants to be polite. She sort of lifts up her arm, but then realizes, oh yeah, that's the Nazi salute there. So yes, reminded me of that. Now, protecting the Australia's children from sexualization. We of course are in the middle of LGBTQ Pride Month, but for the groomers in Australia, it's basically any excuse to push their agenda. Though, and I couldn't believe this, that in a childcare centre, or early learning centre, as they're called, in the city of Parramatta, they are having Pride Month activities. This is for 6 months to 4 years old, Northmead Redbank Early Learning Centre. Celebrating LGBTIA diversity, rainbow painting, art, and dress ups in gender equity. This is like, they're not even crawling at 6 months, and they're indoctrinating them into the rainbow religion. This is absolutely, I can't believe this, that literally infants, they are pushing this on. And of course, subsidized free childcare, it comes as a cost to parents. If you dump your children in childcare, daycare, then the state is going to indoctrinate it into their religion. And here we go, under dramatic play, the toddlers and preschoolers will be taught dress-ups in gender equity for all children. We are the same, but different. So, oh, I just can't believe it. Now, down here in Victoria, it is a Department of Education policy to transgender your child without your knowledge or permission. So the Herald Sun spoke to two parents of autistic children, both girls who decided to use male pronouns. And in the CAS review into NHS gender services, a lot that were going through these gender clinics had diagnosed autism or were on the spectrum. I know that autism is overdiagnosed, and it's those who are high functioning, it's not a significant disability. So this is these teachers, they are following the Allen government education policy. DML says, so the real reason for childcare being free is finally revealed. Any facility where you give over your children to a state-run or funded facility, then they're going to be taught the state religion. Now, also reported in the Herald Sun, this horrific suicide of, well, this Herald Sun headline says transgender woman, which is biological male, took their own life after they were horribly mutilated in a backyard surgery by a rogue operator with no medical training. And so the procedure was an orchiectomy, which is the removal of the testicles, so not a full vaginoplasty, which is the removal of the penis. Now, the reason why trans women have their testicles removed is so they stop producing testosterone. But if it goes wrong, it causes massive internal bleeding, bruising, blistering. They're in constant pelvic pain. And so because it was a they hide them online. So basically, it's like they went online on a job site to find somebody who would cut their balls off in a backyard shed. And so the complications were excessive bleeding, which resulted into admission to Casey Hospital. And so they have now committed suicide, this transgender, via a pill from a online store. So sold by an Australian chemical supplier, now under scrutiny. DML says testes removed. I think that's a Dan Andrews sectomy. Sadly, this is no laughing matter. This should be a national medical scandal. This is like a horror movie. You don't really want to picture it in your mind, like a shed with all of these tools. It's like some sort of horror movie, but this unlicensed surgeon has gotten away with it. Now, the mother, who is Rachel Byrne, is demanding justice for her daughter. And so the mother says that, and this is the theme of the article, that the solution to this is to have train more surgeons in sex change operations, orchiectomies, vaginoplasties. Remember also many years back there was that transgender biological male has actually transitioned back to male in prison, who had a vaginoplasty sex change surgery gone wrong in Thailand. So there was fecal discharge from what's called the neo vagina, and so as an end result went into a 7-Eleven and swung an axe at random people. So this article also quotes transgender Victoria saying female genital surgery can be difficult and impossible to obtain in Victoria or Australia, and says that the inquest has heard into this transgender suicide. There are significant medical barriers to gender affirmation, including cost, as well as lengthy waitlist approval processes and limited qualified surgeons. So I don't know how, what is it they advertise? Hey, we need some people who are able to safely remove penis and testicles. Now, Succinct says the trannies are the only ones that don't fear death. So yes, this was a cluster of five suicides of transgender people in Victoria. So, but this was just an article in the Herald Sun one day, and then it's old news. This has not been the national scandal that it should be. Though, what is the talk of the nation at the moment is nuclear power. So Peter Dutton last week pressed the nuclear launch button on the Liberal National coalitions. If they win the next election, they will build 7 nuclear power plants at the sites of end-of-life coal-fire power stations. So I've got the map here for our viewers. So there's Mount Piper and Liddell in New South Wales, Tarong and Khaled in Queensland. There's Long Yang in Gippsland in Victoria, Port Augusta in South Australia, and Mudgee in Western Australia. So this is quite the courageous policy by Peter Dutton, because Australian political history is that oppositions with a bold, a radical policy agenda don't win the election. Think of Bill Short in 2019 with his tax increases, John Hewson with Fight Back in 1993, the 15% GST, and the free market economic reforms, both respectively lost the unlosable election. And he hasn't released the cost, nor whether they'd be small or large modular nuclear reactors, and also how much they'd form part of the energy mix. Now, the Labor government have gone on the full attack. In fact, they've even opened up a campaign fundraiser, expose Dutton's risky nuclear plan. Experts agree nuclear is too expensive, too slow to build, and too risky. Will you donate to help us expose Peter Dutton's nuclear scam? Because all of the vested interests in the renewables industry. So there's two industry bodies. There's a Smart Energy Council, and then there's a Clean Energy Council. Then there's the Independent Climate Council. So they're saying, oh, this will jeopardize investment in renewables. It'll push up power prices. The CSIRO, they claim that nuclear will be more expensive than renewables. But I'm not sure the CSIRO, they did like the worst case scenario. Now, it's going to take a while to build these nuclear power plants. So only 2 will be online by the late 2030s. So it's a huge nation building project. They're going to be built and owned by the Commonwealth, because of course woke banks and investment firms and private equity firms, they will not want to invest in nuclear. But I didn't expect the opposition to be literally as cartoonish as it has been. So there was plenty of three-eyed fish from the Simpsons, of course, a cartoon which the characters are yellow-skinned and have natural blue hair, of course, and also 4 fingers is, of course, completely realistic. Though Andrew Lee, the federal Labor assistant minister, decided to have a local take with a 3-eyed Blinky Bill. Is this what Peter Dutton wants Blinky to look like in 50 years? But it's okay for his government to cut down Blinky Bill's habitats, to have the massive solar and wind farms, which take up vast amounts of forestry and farmland. Because with the nuclear plants, this is all the room that they take up. So we can still have our pristine natural environment. We also had this was another, have I got it here? There was also another meme here of potential Chernobyl fallout overlay over South Gippsland. Yeah, I know it's going to be owned by the government, but it's not going to be a Soviet socialist technology that they are going to use there. And there's a degree of arrogance from the Labor Party that they think they've got the next election in the bag by just launching the mother of all scare campaigns on nuclear. Clearly, it seems it's aimed at the anti-nuclear boomers, because every young person who studies nuclear energy and power becomes pro-nuclear. And Channel 7's The Nightly, they put out on their front page, the Minister of Disinformation, and had Anthony Albanese with 3 eyes. Yes, although, of course, political parties are exempt from their proposed mis and disinformation laws. Also, going back to that terrorism video that was put out by the Whistleblowers Activist Community Alliance, firebombing Josh Burns' office, how come the E-Safety Commissioner, Julie M. Mann Grant, hasn't ordered social media to take down the video of that terrorist attack? I mean, there probably won't be anything that will come on my channel for showing that video. Is it because, well, certain? Is that because it's only certain type of terrorism which is supposed to be supposedly against the community cohesion that gets taken down? Email says, you can suggest that technology used safely by many countries for the past 70 years caused animals to grow a third eye, but you're anti-science if you state the facts about the COVID jab. I've only seen in the anti-nuclear propaganda cartoon three-eyed animals. Now, we are going to have to deal also with nuclear waste because of the AUKUS nuclear submarine. So it's okay to have nuclear-powered submarines below our seas, but yeah, and we're going to have to dispose of the waste. And again, it's not like The Simpsons with barrels of this radioactive plutonium. It is literally, well, Peter Dutton's been attacked for saying it's the size of a Coke can. Well, apparently it's the size of a tennis court, according to the experts, but that's over like 50, 60 years. So a tennis court, and the Nordic countries, they have mature about this, the disposal of their nuclear waste. And look at nuclear power plants in the world by 2023. United States 93, France 56, China 55, which are powered by our uranium, the ones in China. They're apparently not going to our warheads, their warheads, I should say. I believe that Australia should be able to have nuclear weapons as well. I mean, nuclear weapons, mutually assured destruction has kept the world relatively war-free, well, World War free, I should say, since the end of the Second World War. So, yes, the Labor Party certainly does risk overdoing the scab, and there has been the Sydney Morning Herald has done some polling where the support for nuclear power at the moment is more than the opposition to it. So it's 41% for support for nuclear, 37% opposing it, and 22% undecided. But there is still the renewables is still the most popular, but rooftop hydro is the most popular. Not surprisingly, wind turbines are becoming less popular, whether on land or off the coast. Gas is still popular at it's above wind turbines. Coal electricity is the lowest at only 2%. So we shall see if the scare campaign works or whether it backfires. Now, remember how in October last year, us Australians overwhelmingly rejected Labor's voice to Parliament I remember the Uluru Statement of the Heart, Truth Treaty, and Voice, but they're now trying to sneak back in. The Albanese government and the Aboriginal industry superstructure back to normal programming. So we had there was a land rights non-exclusive native title ruling in the federal court over 250,000 individual parcels of land, which is about 365 hectares of land across the entire Sunshine Coast, and so the Kabu Kabi area commences at Redcliffe and extends up to the Bundaberg region. Now, we're told that people's backyards are safe, but as we are seeing with these native title rulings, as when it comes to Crown land, national parks, is that non-Indigenous people are denied access to them, which they have been enjoying these parts of Australia's great outdoors for hundreds of years, but you have to get the permission of the native title holders to enjoy the natural environment of your own country. Remember that there was those people on that beach in northern Queensland who were told to get off because it's native title land. And also the James Ashby of One Nation has said that there is an exclusive native title claim on Great Keppel Island. So this would be for 70% of the island. Now, if property is owned privately, then it can't be. Then obviously non-exclusive means that they can't come after existing property. But Crown land, that's a completely different thing, because then, as I said, the trend is that non-Indigenous people are denied rights to. We're supposed to be all Australians. We're supposed to have all access to all a public land in Australia. Yet it's, as Keith Winsholt has called it, the Great Australian Land Giveaway, where we're not even allowed into parts of our own country now. And so the money also continues to be wasted. So the Commonwealth Grants Commission, the Albanese government, they gave this Indigenous academic, Dr. Jody Edwards, $300,000 to explore how Indigenous songlines have protected whales and dolphins over 100 of years. Yep, so the grift, the gravy train is back for the Aboriginal industry superstructure. So this is the Indigenous academic here, the 2022 Shell Harbour Electorate Woman of the Year, Dr. Jody Edwards here, in all of the Aboriginal clothing here. And Anthony Albanese, he is still open to the idea of a Makarrata truth-telling commission at the federal level. Obviously, we have the truth-telling standing Royal Commission here in Victoria, the First Peoples Assembly for supposed treaty. The same with the First Peoples Assembly in South Australia, First Nations Voice, or whatever it's called over there. So they believe that enough time has since the people rejected the voice that can just get back to business as usual with this Aboriginal superstructure, the gravy train, the power and land seizures. Now, before I move on to international news, we have another bird flu outbreak, this time in poultry farms in New South Wales. So 2 poultry farms in the Hawkesbury, which is northwest. So that obviously allows the media to pump out the fear again about there's going to be a chicken and egg shortage. KFC have said that there is a nugget shortage. They're trying to incite a panic buying with eggs. They want if they don't get bird flu bird flu pandemic to happen, then they'll at least want to use it to decimate our food supply. Also, did anyone see Four Corners last week infiltrating Australia, India's secret war? So this is about Narendra Modi's his BJP party. It has what the Four Corners program called a paramilitary ring called the RSS, and they have a branches and youth camps here in Australia, raising the Indian Hindu diaspora. And also there's the Overseas Friends of the BJP. Now, the Albanese government, they weren't happy that the ABC Four Corners was critical of our Indian friends. Andrew Charlton, the new Labor member for Parramatta, said, like many of you, I watched tonight's episode of Four Corners. While all issues should be investigated appropriately, discussions need to be fair and respectful. We need to see balanced media coverage of the Australia-India relationship. There is no more important relationship for Australia than with India. Over 1 million Australians have Indian heritage to contribute our multicultural success every day. As I wrote in my book, Australia's Pivot to India, Australia and India, 2 of the world's greatest democracies, which should be united for the benefit of the world. Of course, the Indian Security Services is monitoring the Sikh diaspora in Australia. And of course, they are accused of assassinating a Sikh separatist leader in Canada, because even though these Sikhs, they're supposed to be Australians, we've allowed them to practice their religion peacefully here. They still have their loyalty. They're still advocating for a separatist Khalistan Sikh state in Punjabi. So, and we of course saw that riot in the Melbourne CBD last year when the Sikhs were voting in their fake Khalistan referendum. The question should be asked. You've settled here in Australia, whether you're Indian, Hindu, Sikhs, yet it seems that your still focus is still on the various inter-ethnic religious conflicts from the country that you left. Now, moving on to the UK general election, which is only 10 days away on the 4th of July. So remember, the Unshackled is co-hosting with 99 Iron Duke an election results stream, which will be on July the 5th, because Australia is a day ahead as the results are declared, because as I've said previously, and Dawn Browning, our British expat, will know, it's always election day in the UK is always on a Thursday from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. And after the polls close at 10 p.m., then all the 650 constituent seats, they count the votes, because it's only first past the post. They only have to count single votes. And then they just declare the winner and the vote totals at a town hall meeting, like in the middle of the night, like 3 or 4 in the morning. So there's no progressive results. Like if if there's like 100 votes that have been counted, they don't provide an update like they do in Australia. So we haven't decided what time we will start yet on the Friday, because we sort of want to begin where there've been some results that are coming in, but not too many that, well, when I say it's already over, I mean, it's clear that Sir Keir Starmer, the Labour Party leader, whose dad was a toolmaker, will be the UK's next Prime Minister. He will be the oldest British Prime Minister for a while. He's in his 60s. He's only he's a year older than Anthony Albanese, who, remember when they meet, Anthony Albanese will say, "Did you know that I was raised in housing commission by a single mother?" And Sir Keir Starmer will say, "Did you know my dad was a toolmaker?" And they'll say to each other, "How interesting." But of course, the real contest is who comes second. So I've used the Premier League analogy. So the red team is clearly going to win the league, 20 points ahead with 2 matches to go. Though Labour, they are leaving nothing to chance. They still want to make sure that people go out and vote Labour, and that they don't decide that, well, Labour's going to win anyway, so I might vote for the Liberal Democrats or the Greens, or heaven forbid, George Galloway's a Workers' Party of Britain. He is in a fight to retain his seat of Rochdale, which he ran in that won at the by-election earlier this year. Remember, Rishi Sunak held an emergency press conference afterwards about democracy was in danger because George Galloway won a democratic election, and he was endorsed by Nick Griffin. So, and George Galloway made the point, "I've got the mandate. Rishi Sunak has no mandate." Of course, he was installed by the Conservative MPs who believe that he was the golden boy, the chosen one. Rishi Sunak, with assistance from his mate Sajid Javid, stabbed Boris Johnson in the back. And because the Conservative members voted for Liz Truss, stabbed her in the back. And Rishi Sunak managed. They kept changing the 1922 rules so that Rishi Sunak would be the only candidate, and then so he couldn't be getting rid of. And now he's not. He's already sunk the Tories. The HMS Conservatives. It's already at the bottom of the ocean, like the Titanic. It's just a matter of whether there'll be any survivors. Now, in multiple polls now, Reform UK, led by Nigel Farage, who is on track to win his Essex coastal seat of Clacton. So Reform is now ahead of the Conservatives in multiple polls now. In fact, there was one poll where Reform was at 24% and the Conservatives at 15%. That was felt a bit too good to be true. But the Conservative establishment, the mainstream media, they think they've got Farage now. They think that Farage is going to tank now because he has his appearance on the BBC's Panorama program, or should I say Panodrama, as Tommy Robinson calls it. It's not a journalism program. It's basically a form of concocted reality TV. You remember Martin Bashir doctored bank statements to get Princess Diana for an interview. And so that's why she said that Charles wasn't fit to be king, because she was fed in fake bank documents that she was paid to being spied on, which wasn't happening at all. So yes, it's not an investigative journalism program. But Nigel Farage was asked about his views on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. He has called for a lasting peace, which of course is against the Unity Party in the UK. The Conservatives and Labour, they support the forever war. Zelensky is the modern day Churchill. Putin is Hitler.
Putin sent his troops across the border in 22. You blamed the West, not him. You said, I'll just read it to you and then you can react, that on a tweet, it was a consequence of EU and NATO expansion. Is that a judgment you stand by?
Right. I'll tell you what you don't know. I stood up in the European Parliament in 2014 and I said, and I quote, there will be a war in Ukraine. Why did I say that? It was obvious to me that the ever eastward expansion of NATO and the European Union was giving this man a reason to his Russian people to say they're coming for us again and to go to war.
But you were echoing him.
I was, sorry.
You were echoing him. That's what Putin says.
No. Sorry, I've been saying this actually since the 1990s. Ever since the fall of the wall. But hang on a second. We've provoked this war. It's, of course it's his fault. He's used what we've done
we
as an
provoked
excuse.
the invasion of Ukraine.
And very interestingly, once again, 10 years ago when I predicted this, by the way, I'm the only person in British politics that predicted what would happen. And of course, everyone said I was a pariah for daring to suggest it. George Robertson, former Labour cabinet minister, who went on to become the Secretary General of NATO, has in the last couple of weeks said the war is a direct result of EU expansionism.
And so all the usual accusations have come out against Farage, Putin apologist, spreading Russian propaganda, Kremlin talking points. But Farage, he has doubled down. He said, I'm one of the few figures that have been consistent and honest about war with Russia. And he's quoted himself from 2014. Putin was wrong to invade a sovereign nation and the EU was wrong to expand eastward. The sooner we realize this, the closer we'll be to ending the war and delivering peace. I agree with that. But the Daily Mail newspaper, they led with a quote from Zelensky: Farage is infected with virus of Putin. And Nigel Farage has said that this is foreign interference by Zelensky in the election. He's accused the Daily Mail of trying to save the Conservative Party. I mean, they've got Nadine Dorris, who is re-releasing the plot, about the removal of Boris Johnson. She was a Boris loyalist. Releasing a paperback edition of a book, said that Conservatives are the natural home of reform voters. I mean, seriously, Nadine. And she was the culture secretary under Boris Johnson. Yet, again, she didn't do anything about reining in Ofcom's censorship of GB News hosts. Remember Mark Stein? He was basically said you have to pay for your own Ofcom fines if you want to remain on air. He suffered 2 heart attacks, and so he quit. He is suing Ofcom in the British courts because and he was supported by Dr. Naomi Wolf, who that was one of his offending segments, because Dr. Naomi Wolf called the vaccines bioweapons. So he's very frail now. Mark Stein needs a walking cane to get about, but he still hasn't lost his fighting spirit. I mean, of course, being a Canadian citizen, he's familiar with their Human Rights Commission, the various tactics of censorship as well. But going back to the Conservatives, they think that this is now our chance to really reclaim the votes on the right, now that Farage has questioned the forever war in Ukraine. And Konstantin Kissin, co-host of Trigonometry, that Ukrainian Jew who now, of course, tells British patriots what British values are. Remember, he appeared out of nowhere, and trigonometry is now the as now the pinnacle of the intellectual dark web, which is just a new way to get people to support neoconservatism, forever wars. And he said, "Oh, this is the end for Farage because he's offended his he's going to lose support amongst the boomers who remember how bad Russia is." He had no data to support his argument, but remember, he says that he's one of those people who says, "I'm allowed to have my opinion, and if you try to disagree with me, you're trying to censor me and silence me." But when he puts people down, it's my free speech as well. So he always has a way to claim that he's always in the right. And he interviewed his dad, he was former Soviet minister, wasn't he? He got kicked out. I remember we discussed the trigonometry story with David Clues of Unity News Network, who, along with Mark Collette, Laura Towler, has been banned from communicating with the Reverend James Costello, who, of course, I interviewed on Wilms Front back in 2023, before he was imprisoned for 5 years for posting his creativity religion on his website. So posting his religious beliefs on a website, 5 years in jail. And of course, Laura Towler's husband, Sam Malaya, is in prison for 2 years for posting stickers which are not unlawful, but because he has bad white nationalist views, he needed to be imprisoned. He's allowed to discuss his children with his wife, Laura, now, and I think have photos with them. The benevolent authorities giving Laura and Sam crumbs, but of course they're not allowed to communicate with James Costello. Though I'll see if though there's nothing against I think us wanting to send him a letter or something. Though me saying that, maybe I'll be added to the list as well. Though thankfully another political prisoner, Alex Belfield, he is not banned from having certain visitors. So remember, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for so-called stalking of Jeremy Vine for making videos criticizing him and sending emails to the BBC inquiring about Jeremy Vine's conduct. So 5 years jail for saying mean things about Jeremy Vine, who is one of the protected celebrities in the UK, who he has a BBC Radio 2 program Lunchtime, and then hosts a call-in talk show on Channel 5 called Vine on 5. And he's also a massive bike cycling cunt, because he films himself with 2 cameras stalking and harassing motorists. And the history is that, well, if you take on Jeremy Vine, then you're jailed, or in the case of Joey Barton, he has had to pay Jeremy Vine £110,000 over the bike nonce hashtag that he started, because he decided to settle Joey Barton, the former English professional footballer, because a judge ruled that bike nonce was defamatory. I'll let this legal expert Arabella explain.
Arabella here from the law firm Slaughter and Hay. Quick update from the High Court. The judge has ruled in the case of Mr. Joey Barton v. Mr. Jeremy Vine that the word #BikeNonce is in fact defamatory. So for clarity, #BikeNonce is defamatory against Mr. Jeremy Vine. And it isn't so much that the word bike is defamatory, although it has to be said that many cyclists wearing lycra, filming people and causing more trouble are in fact absolute twats. But it's the word nonce that the judge has taken issue with, and therefore court proceedings will continue in this case. But it must be stated very clearly for the purposes of social media that you must not in any way use the word #BikeNonce in relation to Mr. Jeremy Vine, because it would infer an attraction to minor individuals, and that is in no way a-okay. So do not use the word #BikeNonce. Do not use the word #BikeNonce in relation to Mr. Jeremy Vine, and for God's sake, have some respect for the law. And later we'll update on what the law might be tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Now, I don't know whether another #pedal is also being ruled defamatory, like as in bike pedal, get it, pedal file. I don't know if that was ruled defamatory, but Joey Barton, he pinned an apology on his Twitter X. He's got 2.8 million followers, but I noticed that he didn't limit replies, so you can read all the replies there. So I read it out. Between 8th and 12th of January 2024, I published 11 posts which accused Jeremy Vine of having a sexual interest in children and created a hashtag which made the same allegation, which reviewed millions of times. I recognize that this is a very serious allegation. It is untrue. I do not believe that Mr. Vine has a sexual interest in children, and I wish to set the record straight. I also published posts during the same period which I referred to Mr. Vine as having advocated forced vaccination of the COVID-19 pandemic based on a video clip of his TV program. I accept that he did not advocate this policy and that the video clip has been edited to give misleading impression of what he was in fact saying. I then taunted and abused Mr. Vine for bringing a legal complaint against me, and I agreed not to make the same allegations again about Mr. Vine, and I apologize for him for the distress he has suffered. To resolve his claims against me in defamation and harassment, I have agreed to pay Mr. Vine £75,000 in damages and his legal costs. Now he was settled also for another £35,000 for additional defamatory posts. So the matter is now fully resolved. Now, Joey Barton is an ex-professional footballer, so it's not that much money for him. And the whole thing was started because Jeremy Vine asked whether Joey Barton had a brain injury for criticizing the female football commentators, commenting on the men's game. Now, one of the commentators that he criticized, Enai Aluku, is suing him for inciting people to criticize their commentary further and ruining her career. That was kind of the point, because she is a terrible commentator. So Joey Barton, he's continuing his Common Sense podcast. So he's had some excellent guests on. And of course, he hasn't given up his campaign to keep women out of men's spaces. I mean, there's all this talk about keeping men out of women's spaces. Joey Barton, he was to champion keeping women out of men's spaces. Now, Joey Barton, being an ex-footballer, is covering the UEFA European Championship, the Euros. Now, no, none of the English or Scottish players have decided to say anything about the general election, although a lot of footballers and managers have been politically involved over the years. The most notable is probably Sir Alex Ferguson, the former Manchester United manager, who was a major supporter and donor to the Labour Party, had an old school Scottish socialist view of politics, that Labour are for the working man and that the Tories about looking after their own sort. If he didn't become a football manager, he probably would have become a trade unionist. He was good friends. Well, he's still good friends with Tony Blair's spin doctor, Alistair Campbell. I mean, they both gave members of their teams the hairdryer treatment, which is yelling up close in their face. Of course, Alistair Campbell was the inspiration for Malcolm Tucker in the thick of it, played by Peter Capaldi, who's always yelling at obscenities at various staff members in the government. And a former Manchester United player, Gary Neville, appeared in a Keir Starmer advert or a promotional video. Now, Gary Lineker is at the BBC, so he can't support a political party, but of course he is a raging lefty as well. Apart from Joey Barton, the only non-leftists who I can recall who doesn't support the Labour Party or the left is Frank Lampard, the former Chelsea midfielder. Though the French national team, two of their players of African descent have decided to get involved in the French parliamentary election. So this is the French Euro 2024 squad, and it's basically a game of spot the indigenous Frenchmen, because almost all of the squad are various colors, various shades of black, I should say. And the captain of the French national team, and arguably the best player in the world after the Ronaldo Messi years, Kylian Mbappe, has said basically that he will not represent France if people vote for Marine Le Pen's National Rally Party and make 28-year-old Jordan Bardella the Prime Minister of France. And so Kylian Mbappe, who his nose was broken in the first game against Austria, so he has to wear a protective mask. So he echoed the reason why he made those comments is to echo what one of his teammates said, Marcus Thuram, another black French player of African descent, who's the son of French World Cup winner Lilian Thuram, who's a massive lefty French political activist. Now, France's African team won them the 2018 FIFA World Cup, and almost they were the finalists for the 2022 FIFA World Cup, losing to Argentina. So because on average, Africans are superior athletes, and so it has clearly served French football well, having a team full of Africans, though it seems at what cost now, because basically it seems you have two of their most prominent black players who basically blackmailing the French public, pardon the pun, vote the way we want, otherwise there'll be no more World Cups or European Championship. We won't play for the country anymore. And we have seen with the coinciding with mass migration to Europe, basically you could say an African arms race where more and more European teams have there's Africans in their team in the hope of having that winning edge. And it's going to be something that Australia faces in Australian soccer, as we have more Socceroos of African heritage. So Nestor Irakunda, who played for Adelaide United, born in Tanzania, is going to be playing in Germany for Bayern Munich next year. He basically, the way that he got his Socceroos debut is he said that if he wasn't selected for the Socceroos, he would go and play for his for Tanzania, because he's also eligible to play for them. And Graham Arnold, the Socceroos coach, was like, "Okay, you're in the team." Yes, because he didn't want to be the manager who lost the future Socceroo star who could win us a World Cup. But it does show that there is this as we are seeing with these French players here, that there is this, well, there's certain conditions on us representing Australia, and there's also a Socceroo who is half Sudanese, Kunzi Yengi, but he does identify with his Sudanese African heritage. He has a black Sudanese father and a white mother, but he is visibly black. So I'll just share his Wikipedia there. So yes, he is only half black, but we're still at the, like, I know that a lot of white identitarians are trying to reclaim the traditions and accomplishments of their white ancestors, but obviously half white, half black. They're visibly black, and so so they're obviously they look different from white people, but it's still it seems cooler to identify more with their African heritage. And I think every AFL team at the moment has a Sudanese player, but there's also half Africans in some teams, such as Isaac Quaynor for Collingwood, who, despite him being half white, he's half Ghanaian, still identifies as an African player. So that's something to think about there, that it's still seen as cooler, more exotic to identify with the ancestry from your non-white side. I mean, Barack Obama is the most obvious example there. Half white, but identified as an African American, even though he wasn't a real African American descendant from slaves. His father was from Kenya, but obviously decided to adopt the African American lifestyle, married Michelle Robinson, Mike, so he could be a full African American. Now over to the US. We are over time, but I do want to cover the end of Pride Month over in the United States, and Vice President Kamala Harris invited to the White House, the cast of Queer Eye for the Straight Guy.
Anyway, you're the head of the LGBTQ Dems in Maryland. Okay. How long have you been in that position for?
Since fall.
Since fall. Okay. Is that like a
Can we talk? On it. Welcome today, everyone, to the White House. I'd like to briefly answer some questions. Go ahead, I'm ready.
JVN.
Oh, yes.
Is it true that is all your natural hair?
Yes, I can confirm that this is not a wig.
Follow-up
Thank you so much for
question.
asking.
Do
No
you use your own
extensions.
products?
I do use JVN hair, actually exclusively for over 4 years. Next question.
Is it true Karamo is your favorite member of the Fab Five?
I will say that I can confirm that Cromwell Brown is my favorite member of the Fab Five. I also have a very strict rule that if I'm only with one of our castmates, they are in fact my favorite.
Now, also a visitor to the White House was on a different occasion, not with the Queer Eye cast, but on a previous occasion, was the Maryland Democrats LGBT chair. His name is Michael Nappen, and he was busted by Alex Rosen, who is the founder of the vigilante predator poachers, who catches these absolutely abhorrent child predators. So because obviously the police, they don't have the resources to catch all of these pedophiles and child molesters. So Alex Rosen, he does a duty for all citizens and protect those who want to protect children by catching these evil child predators. And so this was his part of his confrontation with Michael Nappen, the LGBTQ Maryland Democrat chair.
Anyway, you're the head of the LGBTQ Dems in Maryland. Okay. How long have you been in that position for?
Since fall.
Since fall. Okay. Is that like a paid position? Okay. Just more of a volunteer type thing? Is it like a super PAC or something, or is it just okay? This stuff said here, like, you know, I want to rape you. I want to see how much of a faggot you are. What was kind of said about that?
I hope you try to get away once I start fucking you.
Yeah.
I like the fantasy. I like the fantasy, and he seemed to enjoy it. And I didn't know this person, and I never intended to.
Do you think that's appropriate though? Like,
No, of course.
With a little blood?
No, of course.
I mean, here we said it's okay if you want to jerk off looking at it, talking about your dick. And you said, stop by this morning so I can stretch your hole, faggot. Can't wait to make you my little and this was later that, or shit, 4 days later with no response. Can't wait to make you my little cum dump, baby boy. Okay.
So this was him thinking that he's talking to a 14-year-old boy, and the age of consent in Maryland is 16. And he tried to weasel his way as best that he could, but admitted to it all that he thought that he was saying this to a 14-year-old boy. And because this is inconvenient for the Democrats and a lot of the LGBTQ activists, some are claiming that the messages are doctored or being an apologist for him. And another, you remember that a former Democrat Maryland homosexual mayor was sentenced to 30 years in prison for possession and distribution of child sex abuse material. Patrick Warhan of the mayor of College Park, and had previously had a photo taken with the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg. And Alex Rosen here said, I think I've just ruined Pride Month. And now, still, over 70% of LGBTQ Americans are still planning to vote for Biden and the Democrats. Kamala Harris, this is what she put out for Pride Month. So she said, our LGBTQ children should not fear who they are. No one should be made to fight alone. We are all in this together and we'll fight with pride. And she's hugging this, what looks like a drag queen or transgender, in basically what looks like this linger outfit in front of children. So the pervert Democratic Party, they are with the pervert groomer activists. But they could still win Biden-Harris because the Democrat machine could still kick in. We've got the first debate coming up with Donald Trump and Joe Biden on CNN. Trump is going to announce his VP pick. Though on immigration, Donald Trump has decided to adopt the same green card policy as Joe Biden, stapling green cards to diplomas.
But what I want to do and what I will do is you graduate from a college, I think you should get automatically as part of your diploma a green card to be able to stay in this country. And that includes junior colleges too. Anybody graduates from a college, you go in there for 2 years or 4 years. If you graduate or you get a doctorate degree from a college, you should be able to stay in this country.
Folks, it makes absolutely no sense, by the way, that we send home 40,000 engineers and scientists who earn a PhD in our university every year, and we send them back home. We should be stapling a green card to each and every one of those degrees as they walk across the stage.
So junior college, community college, it's basically sort of the equivalent of TAFE. So, and this is why Australia is in the mass immigration mess that it is in, because so many people have got immigrants have got their foot in the door through studying here. And of course, you're just going to invite more foreign students to come in. If you only have to do 2 years of community college to get a green card. And again, this shows that although Donald Trump is firm on illegal immigration, because there was another illegal Venezuelan who was arrested for murdering a young American woman, he's still not going to stop the planes, just like our political leaders aren't stopping the planes. Legal immigration, mass immigration, is still contributing to the housing shortage that we have, the strain on our infrastructure. And so it's the same all over the Western world and United States and Canada. Yet legal immigration, the politicians, they're just, as long as we're the ones issuing the green cards, the visas, then it's perfectly okay. Wolfish Naturalist says, if you want to fight evil, start with the beast system the USA promotes and enables it, and it is the most evil thing to ever exist. I'm not sure what the beast system is. You'll have to exaggerate. That brings us to the end of Tim's News Explosion for another week. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, next Tim's News Explosion will be on next Tuesday, the 2nd of July at 9 p.m. on the Wilms Front channels, because I'll be attending Tucker Carlson live in Melbourne. Of course, I'll bring you a full report about what unfolds there. I'm also, remember, still doing my weekly reality check radio Wilms report on Paul Brennan's breakfast program, giving Australian news to New Zealand Freedom Radio. So make sure that so you can find my Wilms report. I should probably put the link into it here. A reality check. The website is realitycheck.com.au. radio. I'll put the link into the live chat. Though I will be back on Sunday evening for a new Wilms Front interview show live, which I haven't done for a while. My guest will be up and coming emerging nationalist activist Lachlan Lade, aka known as the Dunder Viking. He previously went by the alias Harold. His vlogs on Twitter X talking about Australian history, patriotism, and advocating for freedom, and also fitness and natural bush living. I'm very much looking forward to speaking with him. This is one of the videos that he did for Australia Month, which was, remember, a campaign by another one of my guests, Ben Shand, the Dusty Bogan. So this is one of Lachlan Lade's many vlogs, which they're going viral all over Twitter X. He's clearly going places as an activist.
Well, good morning, my fellow Australians. I was listening this morning with some interviews from one of our ex-prime ministers, Robert Menzies, back in the 1950s. It was an interview about the White Australia policy, which ironically had nothing to do with race, but everything to do with the content of your character. Remember, when Australia was colonised, it was colonised by the English. And the English during that period, they were the pinnacle of civilization. The 18th century was called the Victorian era because under Queen Victoria, well, the English Empire knew no bounds. It was incredible what they accomplished. And the people of Australia at that time, well, they wanted to maintain Australia as a pinnacle of civilization, a pinnacle of liberal values, a pinnacle of wealth, freedom and success, of which we still are. But we are losing that. The country's being divided by the minority who shout and scream, white racists, who shout and scream, oh, colonizers, genocide, and all these crazy ideas. Well, let them suck, let them cry. They are a minority. But they were so vocal. Normal, everyday citizens are rising up. That's why Australia Month has started. And it will only get louder because enough people have the common sense to maintain this great country with like-minded people of similar values. Because that's all we want. And that is what's required for a country to continue to exist. Common identity.
So Lachlan Lade, aka Dunder Viking, will be on my show Wilms Front live next Sunday, 9 p.m. Melbourne time on the Wilms Front channels. Make sure if you haven't subscribed, wherever you're watching on YouTube, Rumble, or Odyssey, you subscribe, click the bell to allow for notifications. Also give a thumbs up and a comment below because it all helps with the algorithm. Remember that I can't do Tim's News Explosion Wilms Front, so also bring you Richard's reports from Tiger Mountain as well. There'll be a fresh one later this week. His most recent one was another catch up with David Thrussell about the Victoria's Men's Behavioural Change Parliamentary Secretary. So remember, you can support our work over at the Unshackled's work over at Substack. So I'll put the link into the unshackled.substack.com/subscribe. So you can take out a monthly membership, $5 per month, annual $50 per year, a founding member for $500 per year, or you can support over with an Unshackled membership. So I use Substack to post all of our Unshackled productions. That's also how I email show alerts to all of you. But I still use the unshackled.net for our articles that I haven't had a chance to do many articles lately, but the unshackled.net is still active, and you can still take out a membership there for $5 per month, silver $10 per month, gold $25 per month, or platinum $50 per month. So thank you all so much for watching. Once again, I will see you next Sunday. And then, of course, it is Tucker Carlson on Monday, Tim's News Explosion on the Tuesday, 2nd of July. And then, of course, on Friday, the 5th of July, it's our UK election results live stream with Iron Duke 99. And also joining us will be, I'm pleased to announce, Harry Richardson, president of the British Australian community, will also be joining our panel as well. We'll also have other panelists announced shortly. So it's going to be a big, massive results live stream. So big week, big, exciting week coming up. So I hope you all tune in. Until then, good night, everybody.
Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.